The painter Gino Parin lived in the port city of Trieste before and during the rise of Italian fascism. Born Jewish, he converted to Catholicism. When Nazi Germany occupied Trieste, Parin was arrested and deported to a concentration camp in Germany, where he died. In this series, we encounter a life full of nuance and complications during the upheavals of the early 20th century. Episode 7: Camps in Italy.
The date is April 15th, 1944. Gino Parin and Vittoria Spirer, along with her 20-year-old daughter Helene, are arrested at their homes in Trieste by the Gestapo, probably at the order of SS Commander Ernst Weimann, the former mayor of the German town of Tübingen. Weimann was now in charge of enforcing the Nazi racial laws in the German-occupied city. Vittoria, Helene, and Gino were all Swiss citizens.
Their Swiss citizenship should have protected them from being arrested.
Why didn't it?
Because the German SS occupying Trieste had secret orders from Heinrich Himmler, Hitler's right-hand man, to rid Italy of its Jewish population, particularly in areas like Trieste, which Nazi Germany renamed Operational Zone of the Adriatic Coastland.
Unlike Jews in other Nazi-occupied countries like Poland, Parin evaded capture and imprisonment until 1944. Despite his conversion to Catholicism, what eventually made him a target to the Gestapo was the fact that he had two Jewish parents. His Jewish ancestry, his blood and race, as anti-Semitic ideology proclaimed, led to his arrest.
So even his Swiss citizenship did not help?
No matter how much Parin might have thought of himself as Italian, Catholic, Swiss, or even cosmopolitan, the Nazis considered him a Jew because he was born Jewish.
And this is why the Gestapo arrested him in April of 1944.
Gino was first sent to Trieste's municipal prison, the Coroneo. The German Gestapo would often interrogate prisoners there. It also functioned as a holding station where Jews from all over northern Italy were detained as they waited deportation.
Wait, I thought the Trieste's concentration camp was called Risiera di San Sabba. Did Trieste have two detention centers?
Yes.
The Risiera was originally built as a rice refinery in 1913, but from 1944 onward, it served as a second holding and transit camp for Jewish and political prisoners.
Was Parin sent from the Coroneo to the Risiera di San Sabba after his arrest?
No, he was not.
What else do we know about these places of incarceration in Trieste?
Well, the Risiera served many different purposes over time. When Italy switched sides in World War II,
because they broke their treaty with Nazi Germany and aligned themselves with the American and British allies,
the Germans occupied Italy and took over Trieste in September of 1943. Trieste became the capital of the new German Adriatic coastland. Catholicism was declared the only official religion of the region, and all Jews were characterized as members of a foreign race.
Many Jews had already left the city, immigrating to North and South America, Palestine, Asia, and even Australia. But around 1,200 remained. Within days, most of them were taken to the Coroneo prison. Starting in 1944, they were also taken to the Risiera di San Sabba.
Around 840 Jewish prisoners were deported from Trieste between October 1943 and February 1945.
Transports took Jews from the Coroneo prison and the Risiera di San Sabba to Nazi concentration, labor, and extermination camps. Records from the Risiera document at least 22 transports. Auschwitz, the main extermination camp now located in Poland, was the main destination. Jews and political prisoners were also sent to Dachau near Munich, the Austrian labor camp of Mauthausen, or the women's labor camp of Ravensbrück near Berlin. On February 24th, 1945, Risiera's final transport left for the concentration camp of Bergen-Belsen in northern Germany.
about a year earlier, in March of 1944, the Nazis added a crematorium to the Risiera di San Sabba, the only one in Italy's 4 German camps, to dispose of the corpses of prisoners who were killed there.
And, for a moment, we thought that Parin had painted this very crematorium on the backside of his Christo canvas in the Church of Cottonwood. But this turned out not to be the case.
Crematorium in the middle of Trieste, not far from the Jewish synagogue. It's horrific.
During its operation, the Risiera held more than 20,000 people. Prior to 1943, many Italians were complacent about Italian fascism, and there were anti-Semitic incidents in Trieste. After 1943, Italians started to resist the German annexation and the implementation of Nazi racial policies.
Risiera di San Sabba also imprisoned Slavs and Jews.
How many people were killed there?
Though the exact number of Jews murdered there is not certain, an estimated total of 3,000 to 5,000 people were killed in the Risiera.
And what happened to the Risiera after 1945?
In many places across Europe, the Nazis tried to hide evidence of their atrocities as they were losing the war. The same happened in the Risiera. They blew up the ovens and chimney stack, but they failed to destroy everything. When the British Eighth Army arrived in Trieste in May 1945, about 400 to 500 Jews remained in the city. Today, Risiera is a memorial site.
Back to the war years, Parin, along with his fellow Swiss nationals, Vittoria and Elaine Spira, were not sent to an extermination camp, but to Fossoli di Carpi in the Italian province of Modena.
Fossoli was built in 1942 by the Italian Royal Army for Allied prisoners of war. But in December 1943, it was transformed into the main concentration camp for Jewish prisoners by the Italian Social Republic.
The Italian what?
The Italian Social Republic. It was the last incarnation of fascist Italy, but at that point, really a German puppet state. Basically, Nazi Germany controlled central, northern, and northwestern Italy, as well as Trieste.
And how is this relevant?
Well, between February and March 1944, Fossoli di Carpi was divided into two camps, one administered by the Italian Social Republic for civilian prisoners, and the other by Germany as a transit camp for political and racial enemies, including Jews. If someone like Gino Parin was to be deported from Italy, they were likely sent to Fossoli because it was the principal holding station in German-occupied Italy.
The famous Italian writer and survivor Primo Levi was also held in Fossoli. Levi was deported in February 1944 to the extermination camp of Auschwitz.
3 months later, Parin was put on a train, but not to Auschwitz like Levi, but to Bergen-Belsen. Parin was among the so-called special prisoners.
What do you mean?
Special prisoners were considered bargaining chips by the Nazis to be traded for German prisoners of war.
4 convoys left Fossoli for Bergen-Belsen in 1944. Parin was most likely on the transport that departed on May 16th with 122 prisoners. He was classified a neutral Jew. He arrived in Bergen-Belsen 4 days later.
And what does neutral refer to?
Nazi officials considered some Jewish prisoners to be neutral because they were citizens of countries like Switzerland that kept their neutrality during World War II. The Nazis believed they could somehow use these prisoners for their own benefit.
Because of his Swiss citizenship, Parin was considered a valuable, neutral Jew. It did not save him from dying in Bergen-Belsen.